This morning inside of the big story, we're talking about roads across Jamaica. You heard from two of our peeps in the streets earlier when they gave us reports, one from Old Harbour, one from Kingston, that the road conditions are terrible. Mikael Phillips is the opposition spokesman on works, and he was seen recently criticizing Prime Minister Holness for blaming the PNP for Jamaica's poor road conditions. Mr. Phillips argues that a comprehensive national plan is needed, not just the Spark program, which the Prime Minister announced fairly recently. Joining us this morning in the big story is Mikael Phillips. Good morning, Mr. Phillips. How are you doing today?
I'm giving thanks. Morning to you, morning to your listeners.
Thank you very much for joining us at this time. You're obviously not prepared to take the blame that was being put on the PNP by the Prime Minister about the matter of roads and maintenance of our roads over the years now, are you?
No, I mean, both parties have to take blame somewhere. The infrastructure has been deteriorating for a time. We have never really, put the required resources that is needed toward the upkeep of our road network. But the Prime Minister, what I attempted to do in Parliament is to remind the Prime Minister that he had the opportunity to fix what he was complaining about, because for the last 17 years, his government, that is of Bruce Golding and himself, have been in power for 13 of those 17 years. So it is very disingenuous of him to be trying to point fingers on others for the failure of his own administration for doing enough for the 9 years that he has been Prime Minister for.
Did you take the time, Mikael, to compare what it was like, say, under the People's National Party and vis-a-vis what road repairs and maintenance were like under the JLP? And do you believe that it was worse in either of these governments?
I think so. Let me put it in context, yes. Richie. The economy there's a change in the economy over the last 9 years, mm-hmm. or let's say 10, started from Portia Simpson Miller being Prime Minister and everything. And when you look at the economy now and what has been spent in with the National Works Agency and with the Municipal Council for the upkeep of roads, the same $4 billion that was given in 2011 to the National Works Agency for upkeep of roads is the same $4 billion that was approved in this year's budget for the upkeep of roads.
No increase.
What we tend to do, or what happens under this administration, is yes, there is the need for the highways, the interconnectivity between the main towns. But what has been forgotten are the interlands, the upkeep of our road network right across the island. When you look at what has been spent, and the Prime Minister in this Spark program is proposing that the monies that he's using, the $20 billion, is from the coffers of central government. And that is far from the truth. The $20 billion that is now being spent on Spark is now coming from the securitization of the Norman Manley International Airport. 12 years of revenue that has been securitized, that will be financing the first phase of the Spark. It is this administration that has repealed the Road Maintenance Act, and our position is that there has to be a long-term plan in how it is that we're going to maintain the roads that we're doing, including the ones that have been done under this administration. If you are to drive on Mandela Highway now, you will see the road network, the road surface itself is starting to deteriorate. If you are to go from Negril to Ocho Rios, that was done from when PJ Patterson was in in government. There has been no routine maintenance being done on that road network. That it is now looking like what it used to be before it was developed. So our take is that where is that long-term plan, not only for the construction of roads, but for the maintenance of roads? Because if you don't maintain the roads, Richie, then what will end up happening is that you're going to end up having to find much more money to redevelop the roads in a shorter time span than if you had maintained them over the period and getting a longer lifespan out of them. We also have to look at just the method of how it is that we maintain them, how we do it now in just throwing some marl in those holes and then, do a little square of hot mix over it. It cannot be the way in doing it to get value for money. It has proven to us time over time that is not the method to be used, but yet we still continue to doing it. 2 years ago, I remember the former minister with responsibilities for works, Everett Warmington, standing in Parliament talking about the quality of how it is that roads are patched, and that there is going to be a different system being looked at. They started it, and yet still they discontinue it. And what we have been saying to the Prime Minister is that no matter how many acronyms that we come with, if you don't have a drainage plan, if you don't have a national plan in how it is that we're going to maintain these roads and to develop them, then we're basically shooting in the dark.
Yeah, we're going to have a problem as based on what you're saying. Now, I wanted to find out, has the People's National Party come to a position as to the direction that we ought to go in, meaning asphalt versus concrete roads?
There's going to be a mixture in our discussions and policy moving forward once we become government. We will have to look at a mixture of concrete and asphalt concrete. What we want to change, and we will ask Jamaicans to be a little patient with us, because the method that we're using right now, which is to spend less to get more, is that we will have to redirect the funds in spending what we have, but to get a better quality. So you're going to end up getting less mileage. And we're going to have to look at some of those low-lying areas, the areas that have a higher water table, the areas where just historically that the road network, no matter how you asphalt it, you will see holes popping up in it. In looking at a concrete method, and especially in deep rural Jamaica, where there's heavy farming concentration and heavy mining operations, and looking at concrete roads to be able to deal with a longer term plan for the road construction. But overall also is that the main plank for us is to reinstate a road maintenance fund, and ensuring that it is seeded with the adequate resources and putting in place I've always said, and it's not popular amongst my colleagues, but to take it out of the hands of the political directorate, as we have shown that we don't manage those funds properly, but putting it in the hands of, just like we do now for pension funds and other funds like that, to ensure that it is used for the purposes that it ought to be used for, using legislation. But also to look at our drainage network, because I think that is going to be critical to the development of our roads and for the lifespan of our roads. As you see,
go ahead, Mikael.
Because as you have seen in the past couple of years, I mean, towns like Montego Bay, Negril, Maypen, there are other town centers that have been flooded by just 1 or 2 days of rain. And what that is saying to us is that our drainage network has outgrown or the town centers have outgrown our drainage network. Hence, if you're going to have the road network itself that is newly constructed, survive the time frame that it ought to, which is about 10 to 15 years, then we'll have to do that at the same time in looking at just how we expand our drain network to take the surface water off the roads.
It sounds like you're saying if the PNP should form the next government, there would be sort of a comprehensive national plan for roads and expansion and maintenance. What else would you want to be looking at under that umbrella?
And we might not achieve everything in the first term because putting a road maintenance fund in place, I don't see us getting the benefit of it in the first term because you'll have to seed it for at least 4 to 5 years to ensure that there's adequate funding in there. So we're really looking at national development, not only for the now, but for the future. So it's something that we see that is necessary. Just like when we developed the JUTC, it wasn't for a now, but it was for the future. And that is also something that we need to look at. We're also going to be looking at, if you're to bring the transport portfolio with the works, is looking at light rail to take some of the vehicles off the road, buses off the road coming from Portmore, Spanish Town into downtown Kingston. But also there has to be proper traffic management. I think we really have to look properly at traffic management in how we traffic flows for convenience and productivity of those who are using the roadway.
Yes. Finally, as we are in the political season, elections are due next year, and already we are seeing a lot of talk. The Prime Minister said something about roads and spend. You countered in some instances. I suspect that this matter of roads, maintenance, and construction will be going. The conversation will be right into the elections. But do you think, though, Mikael, before you go, that this government can boast or should boast about what they have been able to accomplish in terms of new roads or expanded roadways across the country?
I don't think it is a matter to boast because the projects that this administration has already accomplished, be it the South Coast Highway or the expansion of the east-west to Williamsfield, even the Constant Spring Road and the Hadley Park Road were plans that were left there by the past administration of Portia Simpson Miller. So, but they, the fact is that they completed them. But if you're to grade them on those, then I would say they would have had a pass grade of accomplishing them. But for the maintenance of road, they would have gotten a failing grade. And I'm going to give you an example. The Prime Minister made a presentation in Parliament on Tuesday, saying each constituency has a budget of $22 million to spend for the end of the year. The only increase that we have gotten is $2 million if you're to come from 2016 to now. We started at 18 million, we're up to 22 million. But inflation would have increased the cost of road construction, has gone up by our maintenance by about 60%. So we're actually getting less now. And all it is about shifting around the figures. So we're getting $6 million for bushing this year, but we got $5 million for bulky waste removal last year. This year, we're getting, $3 million for bulky waste, but $6 million for debushing. So it's just about moving around figures. $10 million for road patching. Now, $10 million for road patching in a period like this where we have had excess rain for this year, and you see the road network, $10 million for reach is a drop in the bucket for what is needed. So actually, the government is not spending any more on road, I would say, for reinstatement of roads after the rains than they would spend any other financial year. So there's nothing special about the reach program itself, because it is the same $4 billion that has been approved in the budget at the beginning of this financial year. All they have done is given it an acronym and call it REACH, and spending the same money that is already in the budget. So it is nothing new that they have added to the budget, and nothing special that is happening after all the rains that you are seeing right now. So they would have gotten a failing grade for doing something more after the hurricane and the tropical storm and all the rains that we've been seeing, extra rains that we've been seeing this year, to bring the road condition even worse than it was. There's nothing special happening after that. Just a marketing plan, which is calling it REACH as if it is something different, and it is nothing different than we have seen in previous financial years.
He's the opposition spokesperson on Works. His name is Mikael Phillips. I thank you for your frank and open discussion this morning, Mikael. Have a good weekend. Thank you.
Same to you and your listeners.
All right, appreciate it. All right, that was the big story, ladies and gentlemen. And you have your views, no doubt, on what was said by Mikael Phillips. And he's from the opposition benches, of course. The government takes a different viewpoint, and we'll allow all of these views to contend right here on the Richie B Morning Show.